Nazanin Bashiri, AlJazeera, Gafsa in southern Tunisia.
Now, state employees and union activists in the U.S. state of Wisconsin are vowing to continue the fight against the governor's efforts to curb their rights. Let's get all the details now from Daljit in Washington.
That's right, Laura. They might be defeated, but they say they are not giving up. Now, this comes after a procedural maneuver by the Republican-dominated legislature to push through a controversial bill. The White House says it just proves that the governor's top priority is not about cutting the budget. Rob Reynolds reports on the day's events from the state capital of Madison.
Pro-union protesters at the Wisconsin state capitol were loud, energized, and angry Thursday.
In Wisconsin, we care about fairness, and this isn't fair.
On Wednesday, the Republicans who control the state Senate passed a bill that strips collective bargaining rights from public employee unions. Democrats had hoped to block passage simply by staying away from the Senate chamber, thereby denying Republicans the quorum needed to move forward. But using some creative parliamentary tactics, Republicans managed to push it through. Protesters cried foul.
There's a lot of arguments that vote taken yesterday was in violation of the state open meetings law. It's possible that vote could be overturned. We're in this for the long haul, so we may lose a battle here and there, but we're going to win the war.
The legislature's lower house quickly approved the bill and sent it to Republican Governor Scott Walker for his signature. Walker says the bill will rescue the state from fiscal disaster.
These reforms for the next 2 years give us the ability to save billions of dollars that ultimately will save anywhere from 10 to 12,000 jobs, depending on the local jurisdiction. That's what this bill is about. It's about reform. It's about making sure we can put people to work, we can save jobs, and ultimately balance our budget.
Protesters believe it's about destroying unions that are a stronghold of support for the Democratic Party.
It's about union busting. It's about stopping the flow of support to the Democratic Party and corporate America taking over.
Ultimately, it's an attack on workers' rights and labor in general, not only here but across the entire country.
Despite icy temperatures, the protests had an almost festive air. Some demonstrators carried signs drawing explicit parallels between their grievances and the revolts erupting across the Arab world. Activists are collecting signatures for a recall vote, vowing to remove Walker from office. The demonstrators say they will continue to gather here at the state capitol. They're organizing a massive protest for Saturday, hoping to get as many as 100,000 people to participate. Rob Reynolds, AlJazeera, Madison, Wisconsin.
The civil rights leader Jesse Jackson was at the rally in Madison, and he told Rob Reynolds that the Obama administration must step in to protect workers' rights.
We marched this week in 1965 for the right to vote, and that was threatened. And now the right for workers to vote is being threatened. Those are our core values, and so one sense is here a sense of desperation and determination in the sense that people here have lost their jobs, homes in the foreclosure, and can't pay student loan debt. So their backs against the wall and they're fighting back. Whether Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, it is a game plan. Right to work law schemes are anti-worker, anti-civil rights, and so we see what the game plan is. Now we who want workers' right to organize, who want public education, this is the time to dig in and vote again with enthusiasm as we did in 2008.
Do you want to see President Obama and the Democratic leaders in Washington out here with these people, standing shoulder to shoulder with them?
Well, they must do it, because the point when states' rights...
They must do it, you say?
They must, because the point when states' rights is undermining our democracy, the federal government must intervene with its politics and its weapons. And so I would hope that just as at some point Johnson had to intervene in the voting rights struggle, at some point Eisenhower had to intervene. At some point the administration must intervene to protect workers' democratic right to be at the table. This is not just about money.
That was Jesse Jackson talking to Rob Reynolds. Now, civil liberties groups and prominent Muslim Americans have raised accusations of religious intolerance after a prominent Republican congressman began hearings on what he says is the radicalization of young Muslims. Kimberly Halkett has more from Virginia.
No, you can love care, you can hate care. People in the Muslim community.
Rabia Ahmed is watching carefully as non-Muslim politician Peter King, head of the House Homeland Security Committee, speaks about her religion, Islam, describing it as a possible source of domestic terrorism.
This threat is real and it is serious.
But not all committee members agree and say Islam is just misunderstood. They were moved to tears when Keith Ellison, one of only 2 Muslim members of Congress, shared a story about a Muslim first responder who died on 9/11.
Some people spread false rumors and speculated that he was in league with the attackers because he was a Muslim. But it was only when his remains were identified that these lies were exposed.
The Muslim community also worries the hearing itself lends credibility to unsubstantiated claims King's made about American Muslims, including his view more than 80% of U.S. mosques are tainted by radicals.
To say that this is a mainstream element in all of the mosques is absolute twaddle. It just doesn't exist.
Muslim America's biggest challenge, both inside and outside the community, seems to be a lack of understanding about the true source of radicalization and what to do about it. But instead of providing answers, Ahmed says King's hearing has made that problem worse.
Radicalization is an issue that doesn't affect, just one group. It affects everyone. And trying to divide us and isolate us as the problem isn't going to do anybody any good.
And she wonders what message it sends to her children who are inheriting a country that still appears deeply polarized when it comes to religion. Kimberly Helkett, Al Jazeera, Sterling, Virginia.
U.S. stocks plunged by nearly 230 points on Thursday. That's a fall of about 2% and the biggest drop in a single day since August. The U.S. markets were jittery all day. Those worries intensified after reports that police in Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil producer, fired on anti-government protesters. President Barack Obama will hold a news conference on Friday about rising energy prices to try to calm Wall Street's fears. And more than 100 years after the earthquake that nearly leveled the city of San Francisco, the first color photographs have been released. A photographer captured the city in rubble after the tremors struck in 1906. The quake was one of the most powerful seismic events ever recorded. And that's all from the team in Washington. Now it's back to Laura in Doha.
Daljit, thanks very much. A memorial service has been held for one of 2 U.S. servicemen shot and killed last week at Frankfurt Airport. Police say 21-year-old Zachary Kadabak was shot by a Kosovo Albanian who was angry about operations in Afghanistan. Senior Airman Nick Alden was also shot dead. The accused gunman is in prison awaiting further investigation. Spain's credit rating has been moved down a notch by rating agency Moody's. The agency says financial restructuring will cost more than the government expects. But the Spanish central bank hit back, saying its plans cost much less than Moody's estimates. Italy's government has adopted a controversial draft bill that would overhaul the justice system.